famous cases that involve digital forensics. First, I'd like to mention that I'm currently in the middle of a cold or flu, and so from time to time my voice will probably break up a little bit, and I do apologize for this. Sorry for that. Alternate cases. Instead of using the famous cases that have been presented to this class and the previous digital forensic class, which include the case with Michelle Thier, who was found guilty of conspiracy and murder of her husband, Scott Tyree, who kidnapped and imprisoned a 13-year-old, Dennis Rader, who was the BTK, bind, torture, kill serial killer, Corey Beanty Melton, who was convicted of possessing child pornography, James Kent, who was convicted of possessing child pornography as well, Brad Cooper, who was arrested for the murder of his wife, and James M. Cameron, who trafficked in child pornography. These are excellent cases, to illuminate the effect and use of digital forensics. But since they've been presented to us, I'm hoping to provide alternate cases for consideration in the use of digital forensics. The FBI, they disabled a botnet operation. Botnets are networks of virus-infected computers controlled remotely by an attacker, which may be used to steal items such as user IDs, passwords, items used for online banking or credentials, hijack identities, or commit additional crimes. The investigation into the Coreflood botnet began back in 2009 in April, when a Connecticut-based company realized that hundreds of their computers on their network had been infected. The Department of Justice served warrants to seize 5 United States servers used by the attackers, which included command and control servers in Arizona, Georgia, Texas, Ohio, and California. A seizure warrant was issued in Connecticut for 29 internet domain names used by the thieves. Casey Lee Chin. Casey Lee Chin was a 23-year-old who met 2 13-year-old girls in an online chat site, Omegle, or I'm not sure how you pronounce it. But then he kidnapped them, took them to his home, and then sexually assaulted them. Authorities found the girls using signals from their electronic devices and were able to track them to Casey's home. They were found. Well, Casey was at the time he was living with his parents, and so they found the girls in the basement where Casey was living, behind his couch. Casey was charged with 6 felonies, 2 counts of third-degree criminal sexual conduct, 2 counts of kidnapping, and 2 counts of solicitation of a child to engage in sexual conduct. This is the case involving Kimberly Proctor. Cruz Wellwood, at the time was age 16, had a high school rebound romance with Kimberly Proctor, age 17, who was reeling from a recent breakup with a mutual friend named Zach. Wellwood and his friend Cameron Moffett, who was age 17 at the time, had bonded years ago over a mutual disdain for a teacher, and spent large amounts of time playing World of Warcraft, smoking pot, stealing from mailboxes, and surfing sadomasochistic porn sites. Wellwood and Moffett experimented with drinking blood, bodily fluids, and began to fantasize about rape and bondage. In February 2009, Wellwood posted an entry on a WordPress blog entitled "Early Warning Signs of a Serial Killer." His notation was that I experience, or I represent the characteristics of a serial killer. Only time will tell. While independently IMing with Kimberly, Wellwood invited Kimberly to meet to talk in person while Moffett eavesdropped on the call. At this point, Wellwood and Moffett traded messages, quote-unquote, burn her flesh, and why not keep her bound and alive. They clearly were setting the tracks for their rape and torture. The next day, Moffett purchased camp fuel the boys would later use to set Kim's body on fire. Then later that day, the 3 of them met up, then went to a small house on Happy Valley Road. At the house, the boys attacked Kim, bound her hands and ankles, and then Wellwood stuffed a sock in Kim's mouth, which he then wrapped in duct tape. Both boys raped and beat Kim for hours until she died from suffocation. If that wasn't enough, Both boys mutilated her body with a knife and stuffed refuse into her vagina and anus. Then they moved Kim's body to a freezer in Wellwood's garage. After all of this, Wellwood sat at his computer and sent Kim one last instant message. He thought this was his alibi, asking her if she was done babysitting yet. Messages began to pop up when Wellwood's handle appeared online. 8 minutes later, Wellwood replied, "Sorry, the freezer was jumping around." Investigators later concluded that Kimberly was still alive in the freezer at this time. The next morning, Wellwood and Moffat put Kim's body into a hockey bag and boarded a bus for the Galloping Goose Trail, where they doused the bag in fuel and lit it on fire under a bridge. 5 days after Kim's murder, Wellwood confessed to the crime inside World of Warcraft to his gamer girlfriend from Halifax. With a statement from the Halifax girlfriend and additional evidence secured by the judicial police, authorization to monitor online activities, surveillance, and forensic analysis of the boys' computers, cell phones, Google and Wikipedia searches, and transcripts of texts and instant messages amassed the equivalent of 1.4 billion sheets of paper on the two. On Friday, June 18th, Wellwood and Moffat were arrested for Kim's murder. Both boys pleaded guilty to first-degree murder and were sentenced to life imprisonment with no possibility of parole for 10 years. Sharon Lopatka. Sharon Lopatka was 35 years old, lived with her husband, Victor, in Hampstead, Maryland. On October 13th, 1996, Sharon left the house telling Victor she was going to travel to Georgia to meet her friends. 1 week later, Victor found a note written by his wife, which said that she is not likely to come back, and if her body is never retrieved, he shouldn't worry, for she is at peace. Victor immediately notified the police. When Sharon's computer was searched, a surprising picture emerged regarding Sharon's life, or a second life. It became very clear very quickly that Sharon had a second life online, and that she had several online businesses going on. She rewrote ad copy for advertisers, offered psychic readings, owned a premium rate phone number, advertised herself and others, usually with fake sites and services. Sharon was also very active in various online activities where other members shared her fascination with death, torture, sadism, and masochism, all with underlying sexual context. She created numerous accounts and numerous aliases, complete with names, photos, descriptions, and personalities. This is called the Mardi Gras effect, the ability to hide identities and create new ones, especially on the internet. In Sharon's case, it was a little different. She was trying to lure people, not to kill them, but to find someone who would fulfill her fantasy of getting killed. Digital investigators were able to put together an astonishing amount of evidence suggesting that Sharon did all she could to find someone who would torture and kill her. She found one person, Robert Glass, a computer analyst from North Carolina. Robert Glass and Sharon exchanged many messages before they both agreed to do anything. The investigators had to analyze the amount of text comparable to a 900-page novel. Those messages were later used in court by both the defense and prosecution. Interestingly enough, the latter used them as evidence against Glass, and the former argued that the messages proved that Sharon met with Glass with full knowledge that she will be tortured and killed, therefore changing the case from murder to assisted suicide. The digital evidence led the investigators to Glass's trailer, with Sharon's body buried beside it in a shallow grave. Glass was arrested and charged of first-degree murder despite his claims that Sharon's death was accidental. Glass died in prison in 2002 as a result of a heart attack, 2 weeks before he would have been released from prison. Transnational organization steals $45 million using tampered gift cards. On December 22, 2012, 8 individuals toting backpacks armed with specially encoded bank cards with no withdrawal limits stopped at 140 different ATMs from Broadway to Bergdorf's, completing 750 transactions, extracting $400,000 in just 2 hours and 25 minutes. But this was just one of many crews operating that day across 20 countries. In all, 4,500 fraudulent ATM transactions were completed. How did this happen? Such an endeavor is called an unlimited operation, and here's how it works. First, a sophisticated cybercrime organization hacks into computer system of a credit card processor and acquires the account and PIN information for prepaid debit card accounts. Next, hackers manipulate the account security features, dramatically increasing the account balance and eliminating withdrawal limits. This turns the once ordinary debit card into a carte blanche card. The comprised account information is then distributed to a trusted global network of cells known as cashers, who encode the account data on the magnetic stripe cards, such as an ordinary gift card. Then, at a preordained date and time, the hacker releases the PIN numbers to the network of cashers, and the caching begins, continuing until the hacker shuts down the operation. As the cashers empty ATMs around the world, the hacker remains inside the financial institution's network, monitoring their progress, ensuring he gets his fair cut. After the cards are shut down, cashers go about laundering their proceeds into portable assets such as luxury cars, expensive watches, and such. The hackers receive their cut via digital currency, wire transfers, or personal delivery. These cyber attacks rely on highly sophisticated hackers working in close concert with organized criminal cells on the ground. By using prepaid debit card accounts, the scheme can steal money without depleting the bank accounts of real individuals, which would raise alarms much quicker. It only took 5 compromised accounts to result in over $5 million in losses. The second heist began the afternoon of February 19, 2013, and went into the early morning hours of February 20th. For this one, 12 new accounts were compromised. In just 10 hours, the New York cell managed to withdraw in excess of $2.8 million from 2,904 ATM machines. Globally, the operation took place in 24 countries where 36,000 ATM transactions took place, resulting in a $40 million payday. Immediately after the transactions were concluded, MasterCard, whose accounts were being targeted, contacted the United States Secret Service. The Secret Service used its advanced cyber forensic capabilities and network of field offices around the world to catch the suspects. Using ATM machine surveillance footage, Secret Service's New York field offices determined the New York cell was a group of co-workers from Yonkers. Between March and April 2013, the Secret Service, in conjunction with the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Homeland Security Investigation, arrested 7 of the 8 members of the New York cell for their role in the $45 million cybercrime campaign. The 8th, the ringleader, fled the country before being caught, but was found murdered at his home in the Dominican Republic sometime later. In addition, Immigration and Customs Enforcement continues to seize property purchased from the proceeds from these sites. The FBI prosecutes the sextortionist. Luis, forgive me if I mispronounce this name, my Django's, infected the computer of hundreds of victims with malware that gave him complete access to and control over their computers. His targets tended to be teens and young women, whereby he would read their emails, watch them through their webcams, and listen to them through their computer microphones. The information that he obtained would be used to sextort his victims. He would search the victim's computer for sexually explicit photos and turn on the webcam to make his own sexually explicit photos, which he would threaten his victims with if they did not give in to his demands, which were to send him more photos and videos of sex acts. My Jangos' undoing was when a courageous former victim of domestic violence contacted the local police department that had previously helped her. Recognizing the sophisticated nature of this crime, the police department contacted the FBI for assistance. FBI Operation Shrouded Horizon. Dark Code, an underground, password-protected online forum, was a meeting place for those interested in buying, selling, and trading malware, botnets, stolen personally identifiable information, credit card information, hacked server credentials, and other data and software that facilitated complex cybercrimes all over the globe. The Department of Justice and the FBI, with the assistance of partner agencies in 19 countries, arrested 70 Dark Code members and associates around the world. Unfortunately, at the time, this group, Dark Code, had about 300 members, so there's at least 230 members still at large. The 2016 Bangladesh bank heist. SWIFT, which is the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication, operates a closed and secure network that allows secure communication and transactions for banks with other banks around the world. Attackers targeted a bank in Bangladesh due to its remote location, whereby they were able to take advantage of a lack of security measures, slow communication with banks in New York due to the time difference, and the weekend. Attackers were able to steal $81 million, an enormous sum of money, I admit. However, due to the spelling error of foundation instead of foundation, the thieves were thwarted from stealing the targeted $1 billion. And last but not least, I'd like to throw in an honorable mention, sort of an early adopter. Well, born in 1963, Kevin Mitnick used what we now call social engineering and dumpster diving by the age of 13, which would have been about 1976, to bypass the punch card system in the Los Angeles bus system. While this presentation is attempted to focus on recent events and cases involving digital forensics, I just wanted to submit one example from, let's just call it the early days. Kevin was convicted of wire fraud, 14 counts, possession of unauthorized access devices, 8 counts, interception of wire and electronic communications, unauthorized access to a federal computer, and causing damage to a computer. When he was arrested in Raleigh, North Carolina, Kevin was found to be in possession of 20 different cloned cell phones, 100 different cloned cell phone access codes, and other telecom equipment that would allow him to make engage in authorization into computer networks and phone networks whenever he wanted to. Basically, just think of like the blue phones or the red phones that telco operators used to use when they went up on a pole to see if a line was active or not. My reason for including Kevin Mitnick as an early adopter is that as long as technology continues to advance, so too will the appetite for those who wish to understand technology, master technology, and exploit technology for whatever their reason, whether it's personal gain, financial gain, or just because the technology's there and they want to tinker.